And we are live tonight here with Ryan Kirk, a Muppet fanatic and SPFBO 9 author, finalist. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well. You are already creating false expectations, so this should be very exciting.
That's what we do.
You keep calling, man. I don't even know.
So, Ryan, where do you hail from?
I am up in Minnesota.
You don't have the accent.
I do not. I'm originally from North Dakota. I don't know if that makes any difference or not. Was gradually moving east when I ran into my wife and kind of got stuck here for probably the rest of my life. But
okay,
there are worse places than Minnesota.
There are worse places than Minnesota.
Yeah,
I don't know. It is pretty cold.
You know, most years I would agree with you, but we don't even have snow on the ground right now. So I would say we're doing just fine.
Cold is kind of relative too. I mean, it depends, right? I mean, Alaska's freaking cold.
Right? I was laughing. I was at a writers' conference down in Las Vegas this past fall, and it's in November. So for me to go down in Las Vegas in November and go from 20s and 30s to 70s feels very balmy. So it's definitely shorts and t-shirt weather, no matter what. And definitely you could tell where authors were from, because there were some who were treating it like it was a summer vacation, and there were others who were bundled up because they thought it was too cold.
Right. I'm not playing one up you here, but in 99, I finished up a tour in Saudi Arabia in November. And the last night I was there, we were sitting outside smoking cigars or something. Beautiful night, 75 degrees, whatever. Sun's gone down. It's really nice. Got on a plane the next day for Fairbanks, Alaska. It was like a 130 degree difference in temperature over 24 hours.
That is a brutal transition.
It really kind of was, but it wasn't Saudi anymore, so it was okay.
Fair
enough. So I just have to jump in. I just finished sending books out for my Kickstarter, thank God. And the one person I asked him for his address, he lives in North Pole, Alaska.
Yeah, that's right next to where I was stationed.
Yeah, so I got to send books to the North Pole.
North Pole, Alaska is like 2 streets. It's, all the photos you see of it are like of the same 4 places.
Is that where all the letters to Santa, is that just where the USPS just dumps them? Like,
yeah, I mean, that might be.
I do not know.
It's really funny because in North Pole there's a refinery, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure anyway. And they have the pipeline that comes down from Prudhoe Bay right to this place. So you think it would be like the cheapest gasoline anywhere. But they refine it into gasoline. They put it in trucks. They drive it 8 hours south to the hub in Anchorage and then drive it back north and put it in the tanks. And you still spend more than you would pay normally. It's pretty ridiculous.
Weird.
But,
So, The Last Fang of God.
Nice segue, man. That was smooth.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride this year being part of the SPFBO competition.
One of the people that got crushed beneath your metaphorical jackboots, but that's okay. I'm not bitter.
Hey, you know what? I have been the one who has been crushed for many years running, so I understand your pain.
How many years have you been in it?
This is probably the 4th or 5th year that I've entered a novel into the competition.
You just like sit there by your computer waiting for it to open?
I did not until last year. I believe I was actually on vacation the day that it opened. And in previous years, you had a day or two to register for the competition. And so even though I was away from home, I just figured, it's okay. I can sign in the next day. And so last year I had a book to submit and I wasn't able to submit it because it had already closed. And so this year I was right on time, and I'm really glad I was, because it closed in 45 minutes, I think.
Yeah. Good luck to the people next year, or this year, I guess. I don't have a book to submit, but oof.
We need to get the organizers of that on here and ask them to explain how they're going to open it up this year.
Yeah, they're definitely getting to the part where it is going to be
They're going to need
problematic.
to actually review people's stuff a little bit, I think, first before doing that.
And thinking too about all the different time zones,
Right.
because for me it was one thing to wake up at 7 or 8 in the morning, but I know for those in like Australia it was 11 p.m. or 1 in the morning or things like that, and then it was closed.
We don't have any Australian viewers of this, do we, Mike?
Ed has been in a couple times. E.C. Greaves.
He's from Australia?
New Zealand, right?
New Zealand, but
New Zealand? Oh, he's cute.
yeah,
Then we won't say that's right. They should wait for those guys. Give them a chance. So El Montague mentions your goodly collection of books. We were talking a little bit before. How many books do you have, and how many do you add to that population every year?
I'm going to be embarrassed because I don't actually know the exact number at the moment.
So that qualifies as a shitload.
Somewhere between a crap ton and a shitload, yes. But I know that it is above 30 and probably somewhere in the low 30s. But as I was explaining before we came on, I've been very lucky in that I've been able to do this full time since 2015 now, which in independent publishing feels like the ancient days sometimes. And yeah, being able to put out anywhere from, I guess, probably 3 to 5 books a year, depending on the year, over the course of 8 years now has been able to add up over the years.
How many books did you have out before you decided to push the button and go full time?
So I am one of those rare stories where for me, it actually happened with my first book.
Oh,
wow. I had attempted a few novels just for myself, for fun, and was pretty dissatisfied with most of them. They were quite bad. And then it must have been about 2013, I think, that I finished one. And when it was done, I thought to myself, that's actually not terrible. And so I spent 2014 editing it and revising it and trying to make it readable for other people. And that was about the time that I had stumbled upon the idea of self-publishing. And so I figured, why not? Like, I'll get it edited. I'll get a cover for it. I'll put it online. Maybe I'll make an extra $20 a month and I can take my wife out for McDonald's or something like that.
Your money.
Yeah, had some real grand plans. And 37, thank you.
El Montague's on it.
And yeah, I just was able to publish it, and it ended up taking off. And yes, it is totally okay to be jealous. It was completely luck. It was completely luck. I will never make any claim to anything else. So
sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Absolutely.
Did you have like a mailing list and all that? Were you like doing all the right things, or did you just kind of chuck it out there?
So I did have a mailing list set up to collect readers when I first started. But I didn't have anything going on beforehand. I was very lucky because this was back in the day when if your book started selling well, Amazon would really start pushing it hard to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is what ended up happening. I think that I ended up getting just enough sales to tip that balance, but then Amazon started pushing it to more people. And I mean, it seems silly to say in 2015, but it was also a very different age. Like,
right.
Not every category was stuffed full of independent books. This was back in the time where you could publish a book and it would be the first book published in a category in 6 to 9 months. And so it was a lot easier to get bestseller tags and to catch Amazon's attention.
So how many did you have to? Okay, let me rephrase. What was your ranking in the genre when you decided, you know what? Even though this is only one book, and even though I think this is probably, I'm just really lucky, I'm going to quit my job.
So I ended up publishing the book, and at the time I was working in education. I was a teacher, and I was very excited to see that it was doing well. And I wrote the sequels to the book. I finished up the trilogy, and they were both doing pretty well. And I was definitely making more from my books at that point in time than I was from being a teacher. And I remember that during one of my summer breaks, I sat down and I talked to my wife, and
you were newlyweds at the time.
We were fairly recently married.
Yeah, and it continues. I have a theory in your. I'm two so far.
Yep. So we were fairly recently married, and I asked her. I was like, "Hey, these books are doing well. Like they've been selling consistently for month over month. How would you feel if I quit teaching and became a full-time writer?" And to my wife's beautiful credit, and the thing that I need to add is this was the time we were starting to look at starting a family. And so we were in those stages, and we're hoping that there was going to be a baby within the next year. And she goes, "You can quit your job, but you have to be making a full-time income consistently for the entire year. And if you can do that, you can keep doing it. Otherwise, you have to go back and find another job." And I agreed. And fortunately, I've been able to keep that up since then.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's not surprising that, there were a couple of writers attached to that.
Yeah. I am definitely now the trained house husband.
You're a cat man. Well done.
Which has been absolutely fine. But yes, I always give her all the credit in the world, because if not for her giving me that opportunity, I would not have been able to do it. And I still would have done it as a hobby and published on the side. But being able to go full time like this is all thanks to her.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, how many series do you have out? Because I could not fit them all on the thumbnail.
37 divided by 4, carry the 0.
I'm tempted to say, of works that I've published solo, I think 8.
Yeah, I think I put 5 on the thumbnail, and I'm like, you know what? That'll give everyone a taste.
The idea.
Yeah, it was very nice work on the thumbnail, by the way. I was very impressed.
So what's a day for you like, Ryan?
Days are pretty busy around here. I tend to be an early riser. You guys have me. You're going to be bumping right up against the edge of my bedtime here today. But I tend to wake up absurdly early and go to the gym because that is the only time in the day that I really have available to myself. And then my daughter goes to school really early. Her school starts at like 7:20 in the morning. And so I have to be home by about 6:45 from the gym to help get her ready, help pack lunch, do all of that. We get her off to school. My wife and I have breakfast together after that. And then I'm usually at the desk by 8 o'clock. And I try to write from about 8 until noon or 1, depending on the day and how much needs to get written. And take care of the business stuff after that. And then I have to be picking up my daughter by 2 from school. And that's typically the end of the workday for me.
you dedicate a lot of time to advertising, and was there a learning curve with that?
There is a tremendous learning curve with advertising, and I would say that I am continuing to learn about advertising. That is another thing that has changed dramatically in the last 8 years. It used to be you could spend 3 cents on a click on Amazon and be the top bidder in your category, which is certainly no longer the case. But yes, I do spend usually a couple of hours a week making sure that the ads are running well, and keeping up with email is a big one for me. I prioritize my email list over pretty much any other form of media. And so responding to emails definitely takes up a fair chunk of the day, which is
You get a lot of readers that write to you?
a fair number. Yeah. I think over the years, I've made it clear that I'm really, really bad at social media. And so if readers are interested, they tend to reach out. And I've also found that the readers who are willing to email you are usually kinder than the ones who leave you angry messages on social media.
So EL has a good question here. Anything?
Yeah. So the one that I have been putting off now for at least 2 or 3 years is, it is going to be a hard idea to describe. It is a very chunky, thick epic fantasy book. For many of my series, I think starting back in 2018 or 2019, I decided to pull a kind of Brandon Sanderson where all of the worlds exist in a shared universe. And at some point in time, the goal has always been to start bringing all of those worlds together. And all of the pieces are in place for that to happen. But I've been too nervous to attempt it. And we will see. It is tentatively planned for me to start it this summer. But we'll see if I chicken out and do something else instead. It would definitely be the most complex book I've ever attempted in terms of world building. And it would be very thick and very long. But at this point, I'm kind of eager for it. So we will see. But ask me again in 3 months and we'll see if I'm running the other way.
I have one question. When I was looking at your book series, it looks like you have only one sci-fi series. Was that just I want to try it and see, and then no, I like fantasy better, or what?
That is a case of definitely don't do anything I do as career advice. It is a series that I very much enjoy writing, and I actually, at some point in time, would love to go back and continue in that world. But after I had written these 3 very successful fantasy books and was getting all sorts of traction and attention, I thought to myself, you know what is the best idea here? It's to go and write these short kind of military-ish sci-fi stories. And that was an absolutely terrible decision because, once again, Amazon was pushing my books hard, but it thinks I'm an epic fantasy writer. And so it was sending all these epic fantasy readers to these small sci-fi stories. And it tanked my sales good. That ended up being a hole that I had to dig out of for quite some time.
All the while thinking, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to go back to work.
It was almost right after the 1 year mark had passed, and I was like, okay. I was just telling my wife, I was like, I've made a terrible mistake.
It's not a recurring year. She doesn't give you like a year-to-year contract. You just have carte blanche now. You can just go.
Well, since then it's been steady enough that I think she believes in me. But we will see. At this point, I probably pulled the plug before she would. So.
So, Ryan, I got to tell you that I've written 4 books in my fantasy series.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be 7. And I've decided, you know what? I'm going to write a sci-fi novel now. But the one advantage I have on you is that my sales are never that high. So if they tank, I won't notice.
There you go. And you haven't given up your day job.
Yeah, well, that too.
You know, if I was to do it now, I would probably do it differently. I would do it under a different pen name. I think I would do it a lot smarter now, but at the time, I did not have that intelligence, and definitely made that mistake.
So you brought up a couple of points that if anybody was watching this and they hadn't published yet and they were thinking about it, you've set the table for them to go, ooh, do I really want to do this? Do you think that
run?
we're getting, huh?
I said, run, no.
Yeah. Do you think we're getting to a point in the self-publishing world where people might start turning back a little bit more to, let me just throw this out to a publisher and see what happens, because there's no way I can climb this mountain on my own?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I do think about how the environment is changing a lot. I think that the sad truth is that it is getting harder to make a living doing the publishing. I think that what we are seeing is that with those like power law dynamics at work, that the authors who do really well will continue to do really well because they have the reach, the recognition, and the budget to be able to spend on those things. Whereas I think that long tail that was promised in the early days of the internet still exists, but it is not necessarily a deep enough long tail to support all of the authors who are probably interested in making a living out of their writing. Yeah. I think, to me, I would say that independent publishing is still the way to go. I think for all the problems facing independent publishing, traditional publishing has it way worse. They are stuck in really difficult times, and so it is very difficult to get a book deal, especially as a new author with a traditional setup. But the one thing that I always say is I always encourage people to publish, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, once again, when I published, I was looking for McDonald's money. Like, I was going to take my wife out and, be able to pay the tip on a meal or something. Like, it was never my intent. But occasionally luck strikes. But even more importantly than that, I think the world is always better when there's more stories in it.
Yeah.
And so.
I had a follow up. I forgot it. Carry on, Mike, while I have my senior moment.
Okay.
So to EL's point here, why they don't just cut back into the self-pub, I mean, I think that some of the big names you see are, I mean, Brandon Sanderson is, of course, the epitome of this, where he's been moving more and more of his publishing under the Dragonsteel banner. And so you definitely see that. I think that what holds a lot of people back is that if you are a big name in the traditional world, you are also getting a lot of support. And I think that is a lot different than the kind of like the middle level sellers or the lower level sellers who maybe you get a little bit of an advance, you get some editing, you get a cover, and then they kind of throw you more or less out into the wild. That's different than if you're a Sanderson or like a, I guess I don't know what other big authors get the Sanderson treatment. Probably, George R. Martin or.
I know Jim Butcher said he was going to start self-publishing too, which honestly, I mean, once you have the brand recognition, why would you stay traditional?
Yeah. People start using publishers just to get there. And once they get there, just cut the cord.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just boils down to how much work you're willing to do. Like Brandon Sanderson now runs like a team and a press, and not all authors want to do that. So I can see that too. Yeah, they are going to be the next traditional publisher.
Dragonsteel.
That's Brandon Sanderson's company.
Yeah.
Actually, we interviewed James Maxey a few months back. He's probably has similar number of books as you do out, and he's now opened up his own press, and he was looking for children's books in particular. He's like, you know what, I'm still writing mine, but let's diversify. So yeah, I think that's going to be the push. I don't know.
I mean, you see that in the independent space too, right? There are authors who are banding together to combine forces and start their own little publishing houses, and some of them are doing very well. So
it kind of makes sense because it's kind of the franchise model of, all the franchises kick in a few bucks to help for the promotion of all of everybody. And I think that actually makes a little bit of sense if you can find, 5 independent authors to all kick in, X amount of dollars a month or whatever, and then advertise it all under one thing, run one website with all the authors or whatever, cut out even more money.
Yeah. It makes an awful lot of sense. And you definitely see some of the alliances starting to form, and they do really well. Like, they're even better for authors. Like, oftentimes they'll offer better deals than traditional publishers are able to, simply because they don't have all of the people in the middle that need to make their livelihoods off of it too.
Yeah. So I want to get back to The Last Fang of God.
Okay, sounds good.
What is going on in this book?
We talked about that 20 minutes ago for 30 seconds.
Oh no, trouble has arrived.
Oh geez, Ed, what are you doing here, man? You should probably go someplace safe. So Last Fang of God was a story that I wrote. It was kind of a whim. It was never something that I'd really planned out well ahead of time or anything like that. But it is the story of a father and a daughter. Definitely not in any way inspired by my own fears as a father trying to raise a daughter.
Of course not.
Of course not. But the father's name is Kalen, and he's got the classic trope. He's an old warrior who's trying to put all of his fighting and wars behind him. And to that end, he has not told his daughter about his past. And events transpire. His daughter's name is Sasha, and events transpire that she is called by the god that he used to serve. And it forces them on a journey both across the land and into Kalen's past, so that she can survive. And it was definitely born out of me realizing that at some point in time, I mean, I still have a very young daughter, so I don't have to worry about this, hopefully, for a few more years. But just born out of the realization that at some point in time, she's going to grow up and she's going to become her own person, and she's going to want to do things, and she's going to do things that as a parent, I will probably not like or appreciate. And so that was really what inspired the story for me, was putting a father and a daughter together and follow them on their journey across the land.
I don't want to be that guy.
You be that guy. Go right ahead.
That's my thing. That time that you're worried about with your daughter, oh, dude, that's coming much sooner than you think it is.
People keep saying that, and I keep thinking that, and we've been lucky enough so far. But yeah,
well, I mean, if she's under like 6, you got a couple of years left.
Less than 10.
So yeah,
there you go, Ed. Problem solved.
In your book, I mean, you got these damn gods that come. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about living in a place where we don't see gods all the time, right? They can't like interfere in our lives.
Uzman is in the house.
Who? What?
Uzman, Bards and Books. That's Uzman. Great reviewer out of Canada.
Wow.
It's not only a lovely cover. Who does your covers, by the way? Because I went on your website, saw a bunch of artwork. Is that all your artwork, or is...
No, it is not all my artwork. It has changed a lot over the years. When I was first starting out, I was usually doing what do they call the 99 Designs cover contests? I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But back in the day, those were big. And so that was how I started meeting a lot of my authors or my illustrators. But for the past few years, I have mostly been working with Joe Requeza, who has done most of my recent covers, and I have really, really enjoyed his work. I am really disgruntled because Josiah just found him as well for his most recent Kickstarter that he's been working on. And so now I'm afraid I'll never be able to book him again. We'll see. But he is very, very good. He's a very talented artist and very fun to work with. For the Last Thing of God, of all things, it was actually 100covers.com that did it. They were offering promo codes, and at the time I thought that sounded like a great deal. Just kind of like this one-off little book. I was looking for something a little bit different. And I asked them to go with it, and they came back with a winner.
Nice. And you have a Shopify store as well?
I do have a Shopify store. Yeah, I made the... Sorry, what was that?
How's that work for you?
I really enjoy it. It is another layer of lots and lots of work. But I made the transition to going wide across all retailers. I probably started the transition in 2019 or 2020. And as part of that, started setting up my own Shopify store, which I've really enjoyed. I like the fact that it lets me be in more control of the reader journey. I think one of the things that has always annoyed me about this new Amazon is that with the way that the ads work, you can search for an author's name, and then the first 3 results will be somebody else because they're bidding on that name. And as a reader, I find that really, really annoying, because if I'm searching for a specific book, I just want that specific book to be the top of my search results. I don't want to have to go through a handful of sponsored ads to get to it. And so I like with the Shopify store that when they come, they get to see all my books. I can send them offers. I can send them emails, and it definitely develops more relationships that way than selling through the retailers does.
And going wide has been a good choice for you?
Yeah, it has been a good choice for me. It is definitely the sort of thing that when I jumped out of KU, the sales definitely dipped for a while, but because I was moving books out slowly, it wasn't too bad. And thanks to going wide, I was able to get BookBub deals more easily. And so that helped kind of kickstart my journey wide. And I would say now I am doing as well as I was in KU with wide, even though Amazon remains, of course, the primary seller.
Sure.
So, Ryan, I have a hypothetical question for you.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Your daughter, she's 18. She graduates high school.
Oh, dear goodness.
Dad, I want to get an MFA and I want to be a full-time author too.
Oh, gosh. No, run away. Run the other way.
Get in the time machine and go back to 2015.
I would definitely say that she wouldn't need to do an MFA. I did graduate with a degree in English writing, although some of my reviewers will probably argue that I probably should not have passed. But I will say that I think it is one of those professions where you can probably learn more by either joining critique groups or, publishing things on your own and getting feedback from the readers that you want to serve. I think that's probably a lot more useful than spending $200,000 to get an MFA.
Yeah, I would always say get a degree that you can actually get a job with, and you can learn to write.
Well, and this here makes a fine point. If you're going to get a master's, an MBA might actually be more useful for your writing career, because you have to deal with the business aspect of this. And I think that's where most authors myself included, and I'm going to put Mike in this category, even though maybe I shouldn't. That's probably where our biggest stumbling block is. Is you can write the story and you can do all that kind of nonsense, but it's the actual business side of it and putting it out. So
I've often told all of my friends that I've probably been forced to learn more in the past 8 years than I ever would have expected. Everything from knowing the basics of graphic design to be able to make like small tweaks and edits to the files you get from your cover designers, to business taxes, business laws, business insurance, and all of that exciting things. And yeah, actually, EL, that is the perfect way of saying it. Like, writing and publishing are two completely different skill sets.
Yeah, but they are different businesses. The key word there, EL, is business. And I think a lot of people still don't treat it like a business.
Yeah. It is both a blessing and a curse to have it as a full-time job, because you're very much forced to treat it as a business too. Yeah. Like, the writing is fun and awesome and is definitely my favorite part of the day. But at the same time, like, I need to keep the roof over my head. I need to feed my family. And so you can't be too frivolous with it.
Do you get out to shows or anything much? Do you go to Comic-Cons or anything like that?
I do not very often. I've considered it at times, but I have not yet been persuaded.
So Ro and we spend a lot of time going to Comic-Cons. Like a year and a half ago, I stopped advertising on Amazon because I was just throwing money away.
Now we throw away at Comic-Cons.
So now I just throw it away slower at Comic-Cons instead. But I will tell you that last year at Cincinnati, I had a guy came up and he was like, "Oh my God, you're here. You are my favorite author." And I'm wow. One, you need to pick better books to read. But two, I'm like, yeah, I'm not forgetting this anytime soon. So, I mean, I've had actually people like, "I looked for you at MarsCon, but you weren't there last year." I'm like, "It's in my newsletter. Open it up. I swear you should open up the newsletter."
Yeah. I mean, you're tempting me. I've often thought about it. I'll admit the logistics of it scare me a little bit, but I should probably jump in on that at some point in time.
Logistics works itself out after a while. The first couple there's a lot of hit and miss with the first couple ones that you do, but the beautiful thing about it is if you go to your first one and just walk around some of your neighbors in booths and just ask them questions, people are super friendly and willing to help you out and give you all kinds of advice and tips on, things you can do to make it look better and more presentable. And just, you look at the equipment they're using, and it's right off the first one, just as an experience to learn.
Yeah, that's good advice.
I will warn you, you also get the people who will be like, "So how do I write books and be just like you?" and you're like, "Go away."
First, you got to develop a drinking habit.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be just like me, trust me.
Years and years of practice and dedication.
Or the people who will tell you, "I have this great story, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it because I'm afraid you're going to take it and write my story." And I'm like,
plenty of my own stuff I'm not writing. I don't need yours too.
Show me an author who doesn't have like 6 story ideas in their head, and I'll show you someone who's not really an author.
I mean, it's one thing that I always joke about is I always feel like you can always tell the difference between maybe authors who have been writing for a while and those who are just starting out, because the ones who are just starting out oftentimes think that the idea is the most precious thing.
Yeah.
Whereas after you've written a few books, you realize that actually executing it is way harder, and that ideas come way faster than words do.
It's kind of the difference between that, that new young recruit that's just come in country and is all excited to be there and do his bit. And the dude that's been there for a year, it's just kind of like,
Yep.
So, as a SPFBO finalist, plus the Comic-Con is like, that's very true.
Also true.
Yeah. Should you win SPFBO this year? What will you do with your newfound fame and fortune?
Oh man. I mean, I'm not going to win SPFBO this year, and I don't think that I should win SPFBO this year. I have read some of the other books, and they are objectively more deserving, in my humble opinion.
That's not what you're
But
supposed to say.
were the fates to bestow upon me the honor of SPFBO, man, I don't know. I'd probably hide under a rock for a week. I'd be so embarrassed, honestly.
You'd be doing a lot more of these.
yeah, I'm doing a lot more of these. But no, I think I would just be very excited to be able to say that. But honestly, for me, the joy of it has always been able just to be able to write. And so I would probably just go back to work the next day and keep writing the book. So
yeah, Ed actually put on Twitter, I think today it was, he's like, I want to see a 10-way tie.
Yeah.
And that would be cool. I'd like to see it just a tie. It doesn't have to be all 10 of you, but that'd be really cool if it was all 10.
Seriously? Would you like that?
I mean, I would be totally okay with it. Wait, is Ed still here? Because if Ed's still here, then, I mean, unless Ed takes last place, that'd be fine.
As someone who does not have a dog in this fight, that would be the biggest cop-out ever.
I mean, yes, I don't
tie.
I don't think that for the readers that would be any fun, or for the audience. Oh, good, Ed is still here. Fantastic.
Be funny, yeah, kind of that way.
But I think, like, one of the things that has happened with SPFBO, which I think has been really, really fun, is that a lot of the finalists have gotten to know each other a lot better. And, you know, you meet all of them and they're all very nice and they're all very supportive. And you don't want to beat somebody who's like really nice and really supportive and really friendly. Like, there are some really, really nice people in the SPFBO finalist group. And
There's
so
only 6 people in us here, Ryan.
it would be perfectly fine.
It'd be fine.
No, Ed should win. Ed is definitely the greatest human who has ever lived. So
I just have to say that I was in the group with Katie Andrews. So, you know, that horrible, horrible person, Katie, who's probably the sweetest person alive.
She is. So you had Hills of Heather and Bone.
Yep.
But
it was good because, you know, when I first entered, it's like, you know, I'm going to win because, you know, I don't know anything better. And so then I was like, okay, well, let me read like the first chapter of People's. And after I read like 4 or 5 books, like, okay, objectively, these are all better than me. So I'm shooting for 6th. I'm like, okay, now we can adjust expectations. So the whole thing was a win.
Yeah, I have found. Yep, got the money. Thanks, Ed. Although I have to say, converting it from New Zealand dollars to American was brutal. But no, I think that I've just been really impressed with the way that SPFBO has developed over the years. Because there's so many things that happen with it now that didn't even happen 5 or 6 years ago. You've got people going through and doing all of the first chapter reads of all 300 books. And it feels like a lot of the reviewers have really stepped up their games as well, where it used to be that if they didn't like a book, it would just be like a quick DNF and you just like see an update on a screen somewhere that you got cut. Whereas now, even books that are getting cut in the first round are more often than they were in the past getting a couple paragraphs of reviews, which is way more useful than anything else. So I'm very excited by the way that it has developed over the years, and I'm curious to see how it continues to morph and grow in future years.
I'll tell you, as one of those people who was cut in the first round, I read my review and I was like, okay, I got cut, but this is not bad. I mean, I'm thrilled. I mean, they said that, you know, there was a very wide range of one person DNF'd it. One person said they couldn't stand the main character, but they liked the book. I write first person present tense, single POV. So if you hate the main character and you still like the book, I don't know how that works. So I was like, I'll take that as a win.
You know what, though? I mean, 2 points. One, to that very particular thing, it's like watching a television show and you hate a character, if you step back for a second and say, it must be a very well written character if it's producing in me this distaste for them, right? Because obviously it's just a person playing a part. And Grommy, to your point, Mike, he's not a distasteful character. He's a bit of an idiot, right? But not in a goofy way, right? He just does dumb shit, right?
That was the goal.
But that was purposely done, right? Yeah. So it's kind of a skilled bit of writing on your part to make that come through in a way that kind of gives people that kind of angst. The second part is I think it's great that the reviewers are actually taking a little bit more time with this, because even a first chapter you don't know, right? Have you read Dryad's Crown?
I have not.
Okay, we had the author of that on the show here about a month or so ago, and it was he did it in 10 parts, and then he put all 10 parts together in this book. And I'm listening to it now. I'm on part 9, and I'm going to say some things, but I'm going to preface it with this. If there's a book I've read in the last few years that could be put on Netflix and be a successful series, it's this one, for a lot of the same reasons that I don't like all of it. Right? I think book 1 is probably one of the 2 weakest of the 9 chapters I've read so far. Like books 2 through 5 are absolutely smashing, right? Just fantastic. 8, I think he could have. It's a lot of Silmarillion kind of stuff, right? A lot of backstory, a lot of weird kind of, gods and all that. It's very in-depth kind of world building stuff. That's kind of pertinent to what's going on. That's very pertinent to what's going on. But I actually, in my car, hit the skip 10 seconds thing a few times with it, right? he gets a little bit more, there's little sections of it that get kind of romantic-y, or like romance fantasy. Like to damn near, I've never thought I'd be writing a letter like this kind of levels, right? It's like, okay, this is unnecessary. I don't need this. But I get it. I get why he's doing it. And I'm happy that they're actually reading, and if nothing else, that SPFBO is not only making hopefully better writers because of this contest, but also better reviewers. That's a super useful thing for everybody.
Yeah, it's been absolutely tremendous. I am very excited to see it continue to develop.
Yep. Let's see.
I'm not even going to make a comment about the 9-way. That would just be rude.
So I know you guys have your own chat for the SPFBO finalists.
Do you really? That's like really secret clubby stuff.
It is very secret clubby stuff.
Wow.
So dish on your fellow 9. Who is the most outgoing?
Connor, without a doubt.
I would have guessed that, actually.
Yeah. He also, I think, either the caps lock key on his computer is broken, or I've just never seen a lowercase letter come from his account. That's all. I just don't know what happened.
That's very Hunger Games-ish of them. It's like, we're going to make all 9 of you compete against each other, but now we're also going to force you into this little thing where you have to be friendly to one another. Ha ha, you sons of bitches. It's horrible.
I mean, this is why you talk about having the 9 or 10-way tie. Like, you get to know your fellow authors, and there's not.
Did they make you guys vote too? Because I think that would be really interesting.
That would be kind of funny,
right?
A lot of us have been reading all the other books.
The authors actually picked.
Yeah, a lot of us have been reading all of the other books, so that would actually be a fun vote.
That's what happens if there's a tie. They make you all vote to break the tie.
Where's Ed calling in from?
New Zealand, right?
North or South Island, Ed?
But yeah, he is right. I've been in the middle of a writing cave, and I'll go back and I'll check the chat, and it is exactly as he describes. There'll just be hundreds of posts about them wanting to make food and cookies and all of that.
Oh, okay.
So
My sister-in-law lives in North Island, so you don't know her. So, there's a million people in New Zealand. I don't know them anyway.
So I'm going to ask you more questions about your fellow 9.
Okay. I'll do what I can.
I've contacted all 10 of you,
Mm-hmm.
and 9 of you have decided that, yes, you want to be interviewed by us, but 1 has declined. Can you guess
Morgan?
who that 1 is?
Morgan.
Yeah.
So your job is to go on to your little secret society club and start a string that says, hey, who hasn't been on Bald&Balding
And convince Morgan
to go, so they can get the whole set, because they're completists like that, and they're freaking nerds, and they need to have everybody.
Well, once again, Ed got onto Twitter and he said that we're trying to collect them like a set of Pokemon for our show.
So I will do my best to convince Morgan that the only thing necessary for success in life is to come upon Bald&Balding.
There you go. Thank you.
He was actually very kind. I asked him, and he said no, thank you, but no. He very nice. And I told him, if you want to come on, feel free, just let me know, but I will not hold my breath. And then I complimented the dog in his picture, which, I was kind of jealous of anyway.
Yep. But no, it's been a very fun group.
And if he doesn't want to come on, that's fine. Just find out why and let us know.
Deal.
Because we get kind of weird about things like that, and we're very it makes us feel bad about ourselves and hurts our self-esteem. If we have any of that, come on.
So I told Josiah after his interview that my goal is, after we interview all of you, which I wanted to get through by March, so you still don't know who the winner is, because I don't want to be like, hey, you're looking like 8th place. How's that feeling? So I want to do it early enough where everyone, still is in the running.
Mm-hmm.
But then I want to try to get, senior Mollman, I forgot his name. Who runs SPFBO?
Oh, Mark Lawrence.
Yes, I want to try to get Mark Lawrence on and see if we can press him into comments on the authors.
I believe that the only one he's read is Katie's Hills of Heather and Bone. He only reads like 3 or 4 he only reads like 6 or 7 books a year, so he's not going to read everything.
So how about you? Do you read a lot?
I read an awful lot. Yeah. I am that weirdo who has not turned on a TV in the better part of 6 years.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but that's the one thing that everyone always says, if you want to be a good writer, you have to read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, I understand it, and I'm like, but I have a day job.
Yep.
Well, I think you at least have to have read a lot.
Yeah, I think that's more important.
Yeah, I've found that just reading widely is, it's very, very fun, but I think that it brings a lot of fun influences into the writing too. So I'm a fan.
I have found mine, like the next series I'm going to write, I'm going to have a paladin. And so I was on Discord, and they're like, Andrew Meredith, he writes paladins the way they should be written. So I'm like, okay, let me get that book, let me read, And this person, they do, had women, they're like, we hate to insta love, you have to have the slow burn. So I'm like, okay, now I need to read one of these books so I know how to. And I'm reading them like, okay, teach me. And that's more. And I like them, but they're not books I would have chosen otherwise. So, I think that's actually probably good.
Yeah, I always struggle with this because I feel like one of the things that is really important to me is just trying to figure out, what is the story that you want to tell? But then, of course, the trouble is, how do you make money doing that? Because a lot of times the stories we want to tell are not necessarily the ones that are going to sell. But I do firmly believe, with how many billions of people on the planet, that eventually your story can find the right person.
Yeah, you just got to learn to write Mandarin.
Yep, sometimes.
So, Ryan, what social media do you use? Are you on Discord at all? Do you do Facebook?
The one I am most active on is Twitter/X.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's where I reached out to you at.
Yep.
Yeah.
I possess all of them, but I don't really check any of the others very much. But Twitter has always been my kryptonite for a very long time. So if there is a social media that'll catch me, that's the one.
And do you think, are you okay? Do you sell books on Twitter, or is that more just to connect with networking?
No, it's more just to connect with other authors, connect with readers. But also, I find it's I'm really big and I'm a super nerd. So I love like science and astronomy and like breaking technology news. And there's just no better place to be than Twitter for that. So
Sure.
that is, I enjoy it both personally and professionally. But no, I don't know if I've ever sold a book via Twitter.
Let's see. Ro, do you have anything?
No, what's your list? I'm curious what your list of questions has.
No, that's it.
I mean, I'm really curious. I've got a question. Like, Ro, you were talking way earlier in the show when we were talking about my wife giving me support, that you had a theory that you were 2 for 2 on. What is this theory here?
That who was it? It was last week or 2 weeks ago. Somebody was on. Huh?
It was Josiah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was saying something that he got the kitchen pass to do some ridiculous thing, and it may have been to quit his job. I forget. And my theory was that it's a fairly new spouse, still in the blush of the relationship, that is going to allow such a thing, or one that has a really good job with excellent health insurance.
No.
Doesn't mind, but.
So, Ro, how long have you been married?
The end of this year will be 34 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Not bad for a starter wife, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. See, I don't worry that she will ever see this. Tomorrow's her birthday as well. So.
That's...
Valentine's Day is a birthday?
Yep. So don't forget, everybody. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Don't fuck it up.
Are you proud of me knowing that?
What, that it's Valentine's Day? I'm proud of you knowing that tomorrow's the 14th. Well done.
I'm the hermit. I don't have to worry about this.
You're a freaking scientist, man. Ooh, I know tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm glad you don't make chemicals for like things that go boom.
I used to.
Yeah.
Well, they went boom if you did the wrong thing, at least.
All right. No, Ryan, good luck to you.
Thank you.
I hope you win, if for no other reason than you can tell Morgan that, see, you should have come in, you blew your chance. They don't want you now.
Yeah, I'll disappoint you, but I'll still say the same to Morgan. Like, that's fine. Even, 9 of us still have to lose, so it's totally fine.
You need to get us on there on the quiet, just so we can kind of watch what goes on. I didn't know, this is the first I found out that this little secret key club freaking happens.
I was completely unaware as well, and I definitely felt like I had received a secret decoder ring when they reached out to me and were like, "Would you like to join our secret bunker?" And I was like, "Yes, please."
Drink more Ovaltine.
Yes, Morgan will absolutely win.
That would suck. I'm
and then
sorry.
We'll be like, "Why did all you dumbasses go get interviews?"
We'll just have to have an episode with like all the rest of you on here. You can just talk smack about them.
So, Ryan, I have another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a one for semifinalist as well?
No, you didn't win that one.
Yes, I did have a semifinalist in 2019.
No. Was there a chat group for the semifinalist?
Oh no,
okay. See, I got out so early that I have no chance of knowing this.
No.
Ryan, you can tell them there was, Mike. You just weren't invited.
Yeah.
Everybody else is on it now.
Well, I found out about the SPFBO one, so I got onto that, and but oh well. Yeah,
I feel like the kid that's never been to prom here.
So, but I always tell people that I won at SPFBO because I got on Twitter because of it, and I'm networking. My sales actually boosted, and they stayed higher since I was on SPFBO. So I've raised my profile. So I didn't get the selfie stick, but but still, I got something out of this. So I'm a winner.
I felt the same way. Like I said, most years that I enter, I get cut first round, and that's perfectly fine. It's still fun to do. So,
yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for hanging out with us, and I hope you stay warm out there in Minnesota.
Will do.
Have some lutefisk or whatever. Is that Minnesota or is that Wisconsin? I don't know.
Oh yeah, we do that here in Minnesota.
One of those prairie home companion states.
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks for having me on. This has been an awful lot of fun, guys.
Yep. Right. And we didn't even have to talk about Muppets.
Oh, thank God. There's a Kermit.
Okay, take care.
You as well.
All right.